that have come along with the bounce strategies, and also a lot of other innovations like the Amber, Amethyst, Aggro decks that we've been seeing. So here are the two players ready to go, Bobby on one side and Logan on the other. And this is another deck that has been popular. It has been the Pawpsicle deck, utilizing Pawpsicles in order to have card advantage in the likes of the Sapphire deck, which previously didn't have any. So great to see that there. And then we do get to see Emerald for the first time on camera. We all know that I very much enjoy the playstyle of Emerald, being able to play very low costed cards with high questing power. So we do get to see the all reliable Flynn Rider on one side from Logan, and then Bobby plays Grammatala, still a very good premier ramps option for the Sapphire strategy on turn 2, alongside that Pawpsicle. And then we're going to get to see Pascal gain a few chip points of lore over the course of this game. Sapphire not notable for dealing with that camouflage ability very effectively, so Pascal will get to do his thing, and in the meantime, Logan is going to develop an Arthur. So Arthur from the top rope is going to go ahead and be able to bounce either this Flynn Rider or this Pascal and gain an additional 2 lore every time that he quests. And in the meantime, he's going to have a respectable 3 willpower alongside that. So just again, Amethyst, Emerald in previous set was able to gain a lot of questing power and control the field with bounce effects at the same time. In this configuration, now the bounce goes both ways, by Logan being able to reutilize some of these very powerful Emerald character cards after having them bounce back to his own hand. So we're going to get to see how much value this Arthur can generate over the course of the next few turns, especially since it is now untapping uncontested for Logan. So does Logan have something along the lines of playing Fourth Ink, playing a Merlin Rabbit, being able to draw a card, and then using Arthur's effect to bounce it back, draw an additional card, while at the same time questing for 4 total this turn? So instead, he will do something like Maleficent. So more or less a decently comparable play. He's going to go ahead and pick up Pascal, be able to ink either Pascal or something else in order to play the Pascal back down and have Maleficent at the ready for the following turn. And already, as early as turn 4, Logan has 8 lore available to him, and he's going to be able to close out the game in short order if this Arthur is not dealt with from the side of Bobby. But Bobby, again, not very much in the ways of removal so far. He's opted instead to ramp as much as possible. So definitely going to try and play a Haymaker on this turn to deal with some of the threats that Logan has on the other side of the table. Let's see what Bobby can actually conjure up. And we do have a Let It Go dealing with Arthur. So a lot of the questing power dealt with from the side of Logan, but Logan, again, does have a decent amount of resources to work with alongside with that lingering Maleficent in play, and is only staring down a Pawpsicle. So definitely not too difficult to see a world where Logan can develop 1 or 2 very powerful threats here. Maybe something like a Cusco that is still a prevalent force from set 1 moving into this Rise of the Floodborn metagame. And Cusco, I'm sure, likes Pawpsicles too, so why not, right? So there he is. The Emperor on his throne, uncontested on this field. Very good play on an open field because, again, no enter effect can get rid of him due to no touching. At the same time, he's going to be able to trade with any card that slays him. So incredibly powerful here. But actually having a Lady Tremaine on the other side does Bobby, and Lady Tremaine would be able to try to effectively deal with this Cusco if it wasn't for the fact that Maleficent goes ahead and eats 1 for the Cusco team. And then Cusco now here having 3 questing power, as good as ever, going to go ahead up to 12 on the side of Logan. And Logan taking his time, actually understanding that he has decent amount of control of his table, instead opts to draw a few extra cards just to not run out of fuel, while at the same time inking and then probably playing a very powerful 3-drop in the form of, okay, so he just goes ahead and replaces the Maleficent with another Maleficent and draws a couple more cards, making sure he doesn't run out of effective value, while at the same time cashing in on the Cusco he already has in play. So how does Bobby most effectively deal with this Cusco? Has to pay the Cusco tax, as it were, has to sacrifice a card into the Cusco no matter what. And it's looking like the Lady Tremaine would be the optimal choice unless he has something with Rush. He's going to go ahead and draw 2 to give himself the most amount of options. But for right now, Cusco's standing tall on this table, and he might even survive the turn cycle depending on what Bobby wants to do. So actually fully unable to deal with the Cusco, and instead he chooses to quest for 2, getting the maximum value out of his Tremaine. Tremaine can trade with Cusco, so goes ahead and quests instead. And it's quite unfortunate for Bobby being unable to fully deal with Cusco on the first time that it goes sideways, because as everybody knows, if Cusco gets to go sideways multiple times, the game is as sure as over. And with the addition of something like Merlin Goat to secure the last few points of lore for the side of Logan over the course of this and the following turn, it is all but sealed in this game number 1. We do get to see Bobby play on. The game is not truly over yet. Logan still has to get those last 3 points, or 2, once the goat is dealt with, of lore. So definitely something like a Be Prepared, probably the out here. Be Prepared does come down eventually. All the cards on Logan's side got some amount of incidental value. In the case of Cusco, a lot of lore was generated through him, and the goat obviously won more points as it leaves play. So Logan will not mind that Be Prepared, and at the same time, he is the first person to up tab on an empty table, so he can just as easily replace that one Cusco with another one, or in this case, Flynn Rider, and another 2 questing power 2-drop in play. And we're going to go ahead and see if Bobby has any sort of an out to this 2-threat play from the side of Logan. They don't have, incidentally, any sort of ward, so if Bobby has a way to deal with these with single target removal, he'll be able to do so, but actually seems like he does not. He opts instead to draw a couple of extra cards, and then goes ahead and moves on to game 2 with Logan inevitably taking it there. So the hyper efficiency from Logan's side, able to quest and then utilize things like Arthur in the early game to reuse his resources, and then in the mid game capping off with the very powerful Cusco. He was able to close out the game there, utilizing something like Merlin Go. Merlin Go, the perfect end game card for these Amethyst Emerald strategies, because Amethyst Emerald, again, difficult for them to close out the game previously when they were in those 17, 18, 19, and 20 points, but due to the combination of Merlin Go just automatically gaining lore no matter what happens to it, and at the same time, things like Spellbook, which surely Logan has a few copies of in his deck, those definitely help close out the game in this set too. So good for Logan. And at the same time, we did get to see a glimpse of the 2-drop Enchantress, a new addition for these Emerald Amethyst decks to curve out a little bit more efficiently. Gains a little bit of strength when it is attacked. So we'll get to see if that card is highlighted later on. But for right now, mulligans are going to be conducted. Decently quick game 1 again. That is what Logan wants to see. If games drag out over the course of multiple turns, Bobby is highly favored to win in those exchanges, simply because his cards are able to enter and deal with Logan's table quite effectively. But again, Cusco putting a wrench in that plan, Cusco having the no-touchy ability, and Ward being able to circumvent most of the removal that Bobby has available other than Be Prepared. So definitely able to play around those parameters is Logan. We do get to see players presenting, and game 2 will get underway just shortly. We'll see if Bobby on the play this time around can actually stabilize in the early game, set up some of his combo, and then inevitably find those Maleficents in the late game to stabilize the game and win. So do get to see him Inca Tamatoa, definitely a nod to the control matchups. This being more of a mid-rangey matchup. It's not going to need the big crab, so goes ahead and inks it. An astute choice from Bobby's side, and then getting rid of a Maui, passing the turn. So no early game from the side of Bobby. We'll get to see if he has something like Fishbones to supplement his early game, and in the meantime, the Pascal aggression has begun. 2 Pascals escorting this Maleficent, upwards of 4 questing power in play. Not the most explosive start that Logan could have, but again, just being able to go wide in the early game against these Ruby Sapphire decks is already efficient enough and will be more than effective to be able to get a little bit of lore under what Bobby's trying to do. So again, every Pascal in play is going to merit either a be prepared later on or a single target removal. And now Logan is insulated against the be prepared with this very powerful book. So the Spellbook is going to allow Logan to gain a lore every single turn, no matter what happens. So even in the worst case scenarios, if Logan deems it, the game could go no longer than 15 turns. Sounds like a lot of turns, but at the same time, games in Lorcana do go the distance if both players measure out their plays, try to wrestle advantage from each other. Games can get a little bit grindy, and in those scenarios, mid-range versus control, the Spellbook is pivotal in gaining those additional points per turn in order to convert a victory that Logan would have otherwise not had in range. So good to see that tool for him. But he is going to have to add a few more threats into play in order to keep up with what Bobby's doing. In Rabbit, the perfect option being able to both give camouflage to both these Pascals. All 4 creatures got to stick together after all, and then going ahead and drawing a few extra cards does Merlin Rabbit. So now fully insulated against any sort of mass removal, as all his cards had gained value, and at the same time being unable to deal with them in combat through challenging with the camouflage ability. So a fantastic anti-control board from the side of Logan that he's assembled here, and in combination with the Spellbook, he's well on his way to achieving victory in game 2. He just has to be mindful of any sort of cobbled together answers from the side of Bobby. Single target removal, again, like that Let It Go, could be something that breaks up the synergy. So he wants to be very mindful not to tap something like the Merlin Rabbit. And goes ahead and gains 1 more lore with the Spellbook. He actually does, in fact, choose to cash in on the Rabbit because he did add another character card in the form of Maleficent. If Maleficent wasn't there, something like a Let It Go on the Rabbit plus, or Let It Go on the Pascal plus attacking the Rabbit would make the other Pascal susceptible. So very good that he went ahead and played another card. And then here, again, like we mentioned, this Be Prepared, even though it is Bobby's only way to stem this aggression from the side of Logan. Logan already got instrumental value from the side of these Pascals, and the Rabbit obviously drew him 2 cards, so not the greatest loss from the side of Logan, but force play from the side of Bobby. So we'll get to see if from here Logan can actually rebuild with his grip of cards, and if Bobby has enough late game haymakers to actually be able to stabilize from here. So that's the name of the game. Being able to stabilize and also turn the corner quickly enough for this Spellbook to not spell the doom of the game. So Spellbook already representing that the game can only go 8 turns at most, and can a deliberate strategy like Bobby's be able to win the game while also dealing with Logan's top decks over the course of so few turns? It's not too sure. That's why this Spellbook is actually so powerful in these matchups. if Logan was able to gain tempo in the early game, which he did, he was able to eke out as much value before a Be Prepared happened, which he did. And now the Spellbook could close out the game in combination with this Cusco. Cusco not having an answer available right now, as two Let It Go's or two Be Prepared have already been used. So something like Let It Go unable to deal with the Cusco, Maleficent can't deal with the Cusco. So inevitably 3 more lore will be added to the pool. And then a 4th one with the Spellbook. So for Logan, it's a matter of continuing to add threats to play, forcing Bobby to answer his board as much as possible while the Spellbook gets to work. So, and oh, cool. So this Donald, the new addition from Rise of the Floodborn, able to have both players draw extra cards in the upkeep. A lot more powerful when Bobby's already saturated in very expensive cards and is having a difficulty getting rid of all of them over the course of the turns, while at the same time Logan is running out of cards, so any additional resource is much more meaningful for Logan. So very cool to see that Donald in his configuration. The Donald does get handled by the Hades, but every single time that Bobby has to use his turns to deal with a threat from the side of Logan, Logan gets ever closer to that 20 mark. And now guaranteed victory in sight with these 2 Spellbooks. One last draw from the side of Bobby. And can he find an answer to these books before Destiny is written? And he cannot. So there you go. The Spellbook has determined a victory yet again. We've seen Spellbook win a couple of matches over the course of the weekend. So just an instrumental card in these mid-range